So today I wanted to talk about teaching vocabulary and a concept about helping students remember vocabulary. And this concept is that it's the number of word retrievals that students have that can really help them store vocabulary in a long-term memory. By retrievals, I kind of think about it as moments that your brain touches a word, rather than the number of deep, meaningful encounters they have. If their brain is touching and thinking about a word, then that's another time that they're associating a word and strengthening their neural pathways. So for example, like a really basic, like if you have a list of say 12 words on the board, something really basic would be like, oh, what does X mean? This is kind of a very lazy way of teaching, and maybe you do it when you first start teaching. A little bit more, cognitive is like, oh, which word means when you blah, blah, blah. But that's still just focusing on one word. There's other kind of words that require students to think about all of the words on that list. For example, which of these things are living or alive? In order to answer that question, the students need to think about every single word, so their brain is touching every single word to be able to answer the question. Maybe which word is the longest? Again, you're not associating with meaning, but you're looking at every single word and thinking about every single word to answer the question. Other things, which word comes last in the dictionary, which ones are people, which ones could, if they say, oh, these 4 could be people, which ones could be over 100 years old? Again, they're like touching each of those words. Which one is the hardest for you to pronounce? This is kind of personalizing it. But also, students are then thinking about the pronunciation of every single word, and the difficult ones, they're like kind of going over and over and over in their minds. Which one is the hardest for you to spell? Which word do you think you'll forget by lunchtime or by the end of the day? Students are kind of really then more likely to remember that word because they're like, oh, I've identified this word as a difficult word to remember, and they're making the effort to try to remember it. And just as a final thing, your students may or may not respond well to this, but if you let them know why you're doing it. But rather than just saying, yes, that's right, or no, that's wrong when they answer the question, maybe ask a question, are you sure? Or only 3? Because then again, they're going through every single word, their mind is touching that word, they're retrieving that information again a second time to be able to answer the question. So try to think of opportunities for your students to kind of mentally touch or retrieve a word as many times as possible.